Well, as we're winding down April 2026, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has endorsed the endorsement of current Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadiri Obafemi Hamzat, as the possible successor to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. This followed the endorsement of Dr. Hamzat by the Governors Advisory Council, which had announced 2 days or 48 hours ago, saying that Dr. Hamzat was their choice as a consensus candidate for the governorship elections in Lagos State next year. So following that, members of the GAC flew to Abuja with Dr. Hamzat and the Governor Sanwo-Olu to see Mr. President in the presidential villa, and we've seen all the photographs and the president accepting the decision of the Governors Advisory Council in Lagos. If you go back to my previous videos, you see where I talked about the powers of the Governors Advisory Council as a body within the All Progressives Congress Constitution in Lagos State. It is one of the highest decision-making bodies in that party. Now, this idea of consensus is causing rancor in our environment, because a lot of people are thinking that consensus is undemocratic. That isn't true. Under our law, under the Constitution, and under the Electoral Act of 2026, consensus and direct primaries are legitimate ways of choosing candidates within a political party. Consensus doesn't mean a lack of contest. Let's get that straight. Consensus means that some people have come together and they've decided that this person seems to fit the bill of who we want to take the ticket of our party in this election. Now, if everyone isn't on board with that consensus, then it still goes to primaries. The fact that a consensus candidate emerges doesn't matter. Primaries will still hold, even if it's just going to be for purposes of affirmation. Now, what does that mean? It means that even though the GAC has selected someone and said, this is the person we think best fits the bill, it doesn't stop other members of the party from still going ahead and seeking nomination forms and expression of interest forms for the same seat. And that's what we're seeing play out now in the APC in Lagos State, because two persons have come forward, interestingly, both from the Badagry area of Lagos State, and they both purchased expression of interest and nomination forms. Samuel Ajose, he's from Badagry, and of course, Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran, aka Jandor of Lagos. He also posted photograph of himself with the expression of interest form and nomination form. As an aside, those forms cost 50 million within the APC. So that's 50 million for the nomination and then 1 million naira for the expression of interest forms. And to those who think that it's a waste of time, it isn't. The law allows that if someone, even if it's one person, is not on board with the consensus idea, he has the right to still participate in the primaries. Of course, what will happen is, if the consensus is very strong among the party members, then at least the other people who continue to contest and want to remain in the race will be able to lose honorably. They will have satisfied themselves that, well, I went into this contest and I wasn't the one that the party wanted. So it's still a good thing for democracy. People just need to be convinced that consensus is not a bad thing. It is only a bad thing where the consensus seeks by expressly or impliedly trying to exclude certain persons from taking part in that race. That is when consensus becomes an imposition. Otherwise, if there's a consensus and there's still an open race, everyone is still allowed to participate in that primary, then the consensus is legitimate. Make no mistake, the Constitution, the Electoral Act insists that primaries must hold, and they will hold. What will happen is everyone will come there on the day of the primary. If one person stands up and says, no, I'm not stepping down for the consensus candidate, then the party will put it to the vote. At that point, the vote results are counted. Whatever the result is will be final. Whether or not it gets to that point remains to be seen, because we've seen at certain primaries where on the stage, people go on the stage at the primary to step down. Whether or not that will happen in this case, in the APC in Lagos State, remains to be seen. But primaries will hold in spite of a consensus. A consensus just means that some people have agreed on somebody. It does not erase any other person's right from participating. So all the debates going on and all the arguments going on about a consensus being an imposition, it's not necessarily so. As long as no one is excluded, either expressly or by implication from the race, a consensus candidate is a legitimate candidate of a political party.